because I had an FBI agent back in the late 90s. An FBI agent called me from San Diego. I was in Los Angeles, and this guy called me from San Diego, and he said he gave me his name, special agent, somebody from San Diego, and I said, just hold on. I said, I'll call you back, and I hung up. So I called information in San Diego and got FBI's phone number. I call that number and I ask for him, and he comes on the phone. So now I know he is FBI. So I said, okay, now talk to me. And he said, I'm calling you as a social call. It's not business. I just want you to know that the people who work in the FBI, the working class people, we know who you are and what you're doing, and we like what you're doing. We don't have any problem with what you're doing. Many of the people in the FBI like what you're saying. And right now, he said, I just want to let you know your government does not see you as a threat. They don't care what you're talking about the Pope and about religion. They don't care about that. And they don't really see you as a threat because you're not talking about arms and overthrowing the government. So they don't see you as a threat at all. But he said the reason why they don't see you as a threat is because they know people are hearing you, but nobody is listening. But when people begin to listen to you, now we're going to have to look at you again, because now you could be politically dangerous. So as long as we see people are just hearing you like they hear everybody else, it's fine. But if we see people starting to listen to you, then we'll have to take another look at you. And he said, but right now I want to tell you one thing for sure. We in the FBI and your government does not see you as a threat. But if ever you're going to seriously be in trouble, let me tell you who your enemy will be. It's going to be the church. It's most likely going to be the Catholic Church, but it's going to be the church. Christian church will be your enemy, because the Christian church is the biggest organized criminal syndicate in the world, and we know it. The people who are actually running Christianity, both Protestant and Catholic, behind the scenes are the world's best criminals, and we know that. So he says, so when you're messing with the church, you're messing with underworld criminal syndicates. Money, politics, sex, drugs, the whole thing. They're running it, and we know that. So the government, your government doesn't see you as a threat, but you keep messing around with the church and the Pope, they're going to see you as a threat. So I have a young friend who was double dating with another guy, and he called me after a couple of days later. He said, yeah, I went out a couple of nights ago with my girlfriend, and we double dated with another couple. And he said, this other guy was a Mossad agent. And he said, so at dinner I asked him if he knew anything about you. And he said, yeah, Israel knows all about Jordan Maxwell. We're painfully well aware of him, yes. However, there's nothing we can do about him, because he doesn't suggest taking up arms, guns, nothing. So he's only talking, so there's not much you can do about it. But he said, but Israel feels that he could be a very serious threat to Israel if he undermines our religion. If he undermines the Jewish religion, that will reflect on Israel politically in the Middle East, and that would be very dangerous. So we're watching him. But there's not much we can do about him right now, because he's not suggesting overthrow of governments or anything. So I just think those little incidents are interesting. Yeah, because I don't feel fearful and I don't feel frightened, but my gut feeling is, and I totally feel this for sure, that there is a very powerful, unseen force of good, of protection, that has the oversight and the ultimate power, and it's watching all of this chaos, etc., going on the earth, but it is above it. and it can call the shots and at any moment step in and intervene in mankind's affairs. So it's as if like a father watching the kids play. Well, the kids are doing things wrong, and this kid's doing something wrong too, and they're all doing bad things. But he's watching, and when he decides to step in, he'll step in, and everybody's going to know it. But right now, he's letting you go and play your games, do whatever you're doing. But I'm watching you. I know what you're doing, and so I get to see.
My interpretation will be a little different, and I just inject this here, just as an interesting suggestion, is that it's more like a referee or an umpire in a ball game who's keeping things fair so that the key participants have got a good chance in the game without being overwhelmed in such a way that
I like your, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. I think you're right. That kind of sounds right. Making sure that the thing is balanced.
Because I don't believe that the outcome is certain or fixed at all. But I like to think, as you know, we've talked about this privately, that you and I and tens of thousands of others are here, and we wouldn't have showed up here this lifetime if this game was fixed and the whole thing was going to be predetermined to some sorry ending. I don't believe that at all. I think that we are in with a chance in this game, and I think that's why we are here, because it is fun. And every now and then what intervention there is something that keeps that game balanced in such a way that we get a chance to exercise our own responsibility for a good outcome if we're smart enough. And that's my personal take on that.
And
what's your response to that?
You and I have discussed this back and forth, but I totally agree with you. Yeah, I think you're right, that there's some higher force. Well, I know there's a higher force. I know that there's a higher matrix of power. That I know. And I know it's protecting me and others. And I know it has its own agenda. These things I already know for sure.
Tell the story. It's a long story, but it's an absolutely wonderful, staggering story about the experience that you had with
Paul Tice and
Paul.
And Ivy.
And Ivy.
Yeah.
Up in the Nevada desert,
right.
Near Area 51,
yeah.
Rachel, Nevada, the little alien,
right.
in the desert. Do tell that story.
I had a friend, a Mexican friend, who worked at General Motors. He was upper management at General Motors in Los Angeles, and he was getting married, and he lived in Palmdale, which is about 50 miles north of Los Angeles. And so he was getting married, and so he wanted me to be the best man at his wedding. And so the idea was that Saturday morning, we get married that night, Saturday morning I was driving up to stay with him while they were getting ready for the wedding that night. And so I went up to stay with my friend, and while the girls and the girl and her mother and her girlfriends were out shopping and whatever. And so the girls went out to the market. And they came back from the market, and there was an old guy in an old beat-up car following them. And when they got out of the car, he gets out of the car and follows them up to the house. And Carlos and I are sitting out looking at this old guy coming, and he said, "Who is this?" I don't know. And so when she comes in, she said, "This man met us in the market. And he said, I know that you're getting married tonight, and the best man at your wedding is at your home, and I need to talk to him." And she said, "How do you know I'm getting married?" He said, "I already know who you are. I know you're getting married, but the best man at your wedding is at your home, and I need to talk to him." So she said, she obviously didn't see him as a threat. And so I said to him, "Well, that's me, so talk to me." He said, "I've been told to tell you something, that a year and a half from now, you're going to have an extraordinary encounter with your friends from out there. And they sent me to tell you that. And the event is going to happen way out in the desert." And I said, "Well, sometimes I go out in the desert here in California and look for UFOs." And he said, No. This is not going to be in California. It's going to be east of here. and it's going to be way out in the desert. You're going to be way out in the desert. And they will pick the time and the place, not you. But it's going to be a year and a half from now. And they're telling me to tell you that you're going to be driving the car and that you will have a woman in the front seat and a man in the back seat. And they will see to it that you have a woman in the front and a man in the back. And the reason why is because they want both a woman and a man to be a witness to what's going to happen. But the event is for you, not for them. But they want two witnesses. But they want a woman and a man to be a witness. But it's for you. Your friends are going to show themselves to you. Year and a half. And that's it. Well, he left. And a year and a half later, I was speaking in Mesquite, Nevada, at a big UFO conference for Bob Brown. And that was in Mesquite, which is like 60 miles northeast of Las Vegas. And I had brought with me my lady friend from Hawaii, who was a talk show host from Hawaii, Ivy West, and my publisher friend who was living in San Diego, where I was at the time too, my publisher friend, Paul Tice. And so Paul was in the back seat and Ivy's in the front seat, and I'm driving. And we're coming back from Mesquite Sunday morning early, and just as we're getting into Las Vegas, I said, out of nowhere, I said, have either one of you ever been to Area 51? They said, no. You want to go? I said, yeah, let's do. Well, I had been given an invitation to go to the Little Alien by Joe and Pat Travis, who owned the Little Alien, because they used to hear me on my show. I used to do a radio show, a late night talk show in Las Vegas. And so they would hear me. So they used to call me and say, come up as our guest, come up and visit. And so I never did. But so we decided, okay, we'll go. So I called them, and they said, yeah, come on up. So on the way up, it's 135 miles north of Las Vegas in the high desert of Nevada. It's a little Mickey Mouse, and I do mean small, little establishment out there in the middle of nowhere. And it's actually just a big restaurant bar, and then there's about 6 or 8 mobile homes which are rented out the rooms like a motel, but they're little mobile homes. They rent them out like a motel. And then there's a mom and pop grocery store and a little service station, and that's it. You know. And it's called Rachel, Nevada. And so, and across about a mile or so to the mountain, on the other side of the mountain is the military base, Nellis Air Force Test Range, and very highly secret stuff going on out there. So anyway, we're driving up, and so I told Ivy and Paul about the prophecy, and I said, here it is, and exactly a year and a half later, and he said I'd be driving on a woman in the front seat and a man in the back. So I said, don't be surprised if, you know, something happens to us. I don't know. So I'm glad I told them before it happened.